In episode 2, Ray reflects on his groundbreaking decision to arrange Pan on the Move for Panorama in 1972 and the musical philosophy behind it. He talks about harmonic innovation, the guitar's influence on his arrangements, and how competition, technology, and evolution continue to shape the steelpan movement.
So interesting that you spoke about using the guitar as opposed to the piano, because one of the, or the pan.
Yeah.
Your compositions tend to be very chord driven.
Yes.
And is that then a direct result of using the guitar instead of the pan?
I think so. As I said, the guitar is 6 strings, But when I'm doing a solo piece, I use a pan. And that has intricate harmony too. But I always like, I like a lot of nice chords and harmony. I have tunes with 3 chords too, But I prefer how I hear it, and what I like to hear is a nice. And then I was influenced, I grew up hearing Sparrow and Kitchener. And I think they influenced my way of thinking about calypso music. And to this day I would say that they are still the greatest to write music, calypso music. Merchant was very good too. But Sparrow's lyricism, I really admired that. Kitchener too is good melodies, and actually Kitchener was a very good bassist. He knew a lot of harmony. And I was exposed to those two. And they never left me.
Okay.
I went off on my own. But as a reference, I don't think about them when I'm writing, but what's inside of you is there. You can't hear my tune and say it's a Kitchener tune, of course not, but some of the harmonic development, I paid them a compliment once. I knew him very well. And once I said, Kitch, well, I offered to take him to Seattle. I was living in Seattle, and I said to him, why don't you come to Seattle, I'll do a whole show with you. I'll do all your songs. I'll arrange all the music for you. He said, that sounds good. But, I had a fly. He was mortally afraid of flying.
Okay.
So that was the end of that project. But we always conversed. And so I complimented one day. I said, Kitch boy, you were way ahead of all of us. No, you were ahead of all of us. What his reply was? Miles ahead. I said, Kitch, so much for modesty. Yeah. But it is a fact, he really opened up our ears, and I think in the pan I opened up a lot of ears,
Right.
But Sparrow's melody had a different shape to Kitch. It was a more romantic kind of thing, So people thought I didn't like Kitchener, but I would, no, that is me. I didn't. I maybe about 2 songs by Kitchener I did. The reason was that Sparrow's music presented a challenge.
Okay.
And I always like a challenge, Plus it was melodic, and Kitchener was a more cut and dry. But both are great, and I don't know what our music would have been without them. So I credit them for a lot of things that I write. Kitchener we were just talking about classical, about Bach. Kitchener listened to a lot of classical music. And some of his melodies, if not lifted directly, you could hear. And his structure, how he structured, he said he music with structure, how his melodies were structured. But because of his attention, he paid to classical music, which is a big help.
Learn something today.
Yeah, it is a big help. And Kitchener was an all-round musician, like I try to be. I say I try to be. And Sparrow himself became, but he went in more into the ballads and pop and love songs. Because his voice, it suited his voice.
Right.
See? So both of them drew from different fields of music. That's why they were so great.
What's interesting to hear you say though is that a lot of your influences are actually, and I use the term local,
Yes.
as opposed to, you know, foreign in terms of the classics and
Well,
so on.
the classics did influence me a lot. I learned a lot about music from it. I didn't have a teacher, I couldn't read, but I studied by listening.
Right.
I also like pop. When I was growing up, pop music was a big thing, of course, American pop. Then we used to hear all kinds of music, Latin, what we call jazz. You know. So it was not only local, but I was writing mainly calypso at the time.
Okay.
So I had to have a reference point. But the classics were a big help to me. And when I started to arrange Panorama, I said, you know, we could be doing so much more with it. And I studied to that effect. You know, to do modulations is not an easy thing, you know. That used to drive me, but I said, I have to be able to do it.
Right.
I was very persistent. I'm not a person that you could discourage easily, you know.
Okay.
You can tell me, well, look, they have men shooting in the back street and not going to the back street. They're going past them. If I set my mind on a goal, it's difficult to deter me from that because I would have thought about, say, you know, this is something that is worthy.
Right.
And I'll go towards it. So the Panorama thing, I went into it thinking that I could improve on what had been done before and set like a template for what it has become. But in recent years now it's got so, I don't know what to say. Anyhow, let's go ahead.
You started to talk a little bit about doing things differently, you know, for Panorama, trying to do things a little differently. So that takes me right into the, I guess, the aspect of your history that really sets you apart from everybody else, apart from other things, of course, in that in 72, you made the bold move to arrange Pan on the Move for Panorama.
Yes.
You know? What was going through your mind when you made that decision?
Well, you know, my nature, me as a person, I like to experiment things. I like to progress. Well, how much progress I can make now? But I like to, no, but I shouldn't really say that because I never knew in 2017 I would have done a vocal album. So 17 to 25 is 8 years. So at 73, I embarked on a new course. Right? So that is me. So I said, look, I won Panorama, I had won twice. I'm looking for new fields to conquer. You know, it's like when somebody, a nation wins a war, they're going to the spoils, to the victors, go the spoils.
Right.
So I'm looking for new fields. I was in the next year, so like our own music, man. It used to be on my mind, because I wrote, the Pan on the Move was not the first piece I wrote.
Okay, yes, I remember.
But I said, you know, Kitchener has a brain, Sparrow has a brain, Merchant has a brain. Piggy Joseph, he's right foot, but he has a brain. So God didn't give me a brain too. You know what I mean? That's how I looked at it. I have a brain, I'm a musician. And you would say, nothing invented, nothing gained, never failed, so what?
Right.
I dust my pants, get up and go again. That's how I think. I was not afraid of failure. When you fear failure, it paralyzes all your thoughts. You can't do anything, you know, because, and we learn from failure. It's good to fail because you learn from your mistakes. and you come back now more determined. As I told you, nobody could what's the word? Nobody could dissuade me. If I have something in the mind I feel is a good thing, you can't take my mind away from that.
Right.
So I wanted to make the pan more reputable thing. We're not only playing what other people wrote. We could be something on our own.
Right.
You know, we don't have to depend solely on other people's minds. I kind of resented that idea. And I knew, I wasn't stupid, I knew what Panorama would cause. Kitchener and Sparrow, they used to come in my house here all the time. Not all the time. When they wrote their songs, they used to come here. I used to know the songs before they were released.
Okay.
So I'm saying, but you know, I had to make, when I put Sparrow song in the pan, it made the songs more popular. So I said, but wait, so why can't I do something for myself? wait now. I'm just a lucky? No.
Right. So 72 years sort of
made a departure.
Shake up the place, yes. Made a departure, you know. That's been, what, 50 odd years?
53.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you think the steelpan community has fully embraced the possibilities of original compositions and the sort of harmonic complexity that that brings?
Well, I thought they had, and for a time, evidence showed that they had, or that the majority had. But I have to say, in all honesty, now, that they have reverted. All the gains that were made have now been reversed. I was speaking recently to one of the leading arrangers, and he said, you know, it's really, really sad that everything has gone back how it was. And maybe even worse, because at that time we had better music. So the fact is, how many people write with the band? One. So we're talking about a whole movement and only one person doing it. Well, like for Panorama, let's say, I don't know what they're doing. Otherwise, when I hear the bands, I ain't hearing anything original. So, and that has a, how to put it? That has a negative effect worldwide. I being a composer and arranger, and I had my music scored, some of them, some unfortunately I didn't get done, and it's a big regret. But I knew what used to sell. People were interested. One of the arrangers told me, he says like they came to a dead stop. Because it gave people feeling this is from the steel band.
Right.
This is what is produced. The good works from the steel band. Yeah. What are you going to tell somebody to buy what? So I hope that eventually they come to their senses. Now, everything depends on who's at the top. I did Panorama because I was at the top at the time. You make changes when you're at the top. Who directing the government? Whoever is in power, right? I'm not seeing any musical leadership. To see, I know one person would like to do it, or we speak regularly about it. And he could do it not because he's at the top. But you know, the people among the mindset, you know, the mindset is you have to get yourself I'm not in it now, I don't know how to do it, but you have to find a way. When you know, so many foreign groups we knew, and either they broke up or personal change, or the people left because the direction was not what they wanted to go in. It's much more difficult for the steel band, to do that. But direction is important.
Yeah. Well, let me ask this question. I mean, to what extent do you think that competition, because a lot of steel band is, focused on competition. To what extent do you think competition has actually hurt the steel band?
Well, I'll answer in two parts. At the outset, it helped. But as time went on, it started to hurt. And it has hurt it so badly that I don't know if or when we're coming out of this slump. Some people may not realize it's a slump,
Right.
But I know what we used to play and the response we used to get. Now you're getting something now where it's free, people will go. Now the odd show, some people will attend. But in dance music, there's no room for the steel band anymore. And that started in the late 70s, early 80s. It started to, we used to play 4-5, we just split in 4-5 Silver Stars and stuff because we were playing good dance music. And nice tunes. So people wanted to hear, you can't put a steel band. The other thing though, which is very lamentable, Bertie Marshall was a man thinking how to improve the steel band and how to make it more marketable when he tried amplification. It wasn't perfect. Nothing is perfect at the start. You're feeling your way around, right? People used to make around the Chinese music they're playing with Highlanders. And that's very unkind. But he tried. And I think Pan Vibes, which was they're from Belma, they tried something too. So those were people who were thinking ahead of time. But as with the composition, it fell by the wayside. This is a tragedy with the steel band, with the membership. They don't seem to want to sustain something. A few problems and you're right to discard it. But when I used to tour a lot in San Francisco Carnival, one of the producers of the First Love record, he got an engineer. The band was on the road. Man, you could hear it from, well, I don't want to say miles, but a long way out, and beautiful amplification. So I was saying that maybe the people here would learn something, but I told them about it, but nobody interested in that. So Bertie had the idea, very good idea. He went to his grave, and he was a little dejected, disillusioned, and a lot of people get disillusioned and gave up. Coca, before he died, was very disillusioned about how the sound of the pan. So that is something that I can't change that. I could talk to young people, but they won't listen to me. If me module them, tell them no, and they feel they could see away with that, they will do that. Right. So it is.
But the main development on the pan, if I could call it that, the 5 pan, the G pan and all of that. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, it took it in a direction that was technologically different.
Yes.
But for all intents and purposes, it hasn't really improved its lot.
No. I will tell you from my knowledge, and my knowledge is not all in knowledge.
Right.
When the pipe pan was first introduced in the States, I myself thought it might have made an impact. It has made no impact. I remember going to some show or something. I was talking to people who were interested in the pan. And I was told, we want to hear the pan. We don't want to hear, if we could go and buy a synthesizer, why would we buy a synthesizer? Because we want to hear the natural sound of the pan. So you have to look and see that it was a good idea to but it will never catch on. Because it's not the natural sound.
I go back to the word you use, warmth.
They don't have that. You want something, this is a steel pan, right? What you have, a synthesizer is more like a pan synthesizer, you can say that. So people kind of resented the idea of what they considered, I using a term, a loaded term, a distortion of the instrument. I'm saying it was a fantastic development technologically. All I'm telling you about is the marketability.
Right.
All right? You know, Ellie had developed in his latter years an instrument, what was it called? It was a double second, and then he had two lower pans at the end. But I forgot the name of it now. And you know, when I used to play it, he tried and so I told him, I say, listen, that doesn't make sense, you know. Where are you going to carry that to play? I told Ellie the same thing. I say, Ellie, it's not a sensible development. I lied on my bed 2 nights ago. I said, but wait, when last did I see that instrument or hear about it? It just vanished. Part of the thing with the steel band, the world at large is looking for smaller things, right? Look at what a Bose speaker used to be. The speakers used to be like, right? A Bose speaker is a tiny little thing. That is the way technology has developed, making things smaller, less cumbersome, easier to travel with. So when we went to the G-Pan, or the G-Pan bass does have it's a good bass, you know. But that can't be a marketable instrument because where are people going to perform with it?
Right.
How are you going to travel with it? To lift one of those up is work, you know. So I'm not knocking it. You have to try, but we have to be conscious of marketability.
But so and I guess that is the issue. You know, the size of a pan ensemble is a little unmanageable.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
So how do you solve that problem?
Well, what we did, when I say we, at a band called Showboat, Conrad Franklin, who was the manager of Pandemonium, we used to travel. But it became more and more difficult because of the freight, the weight. I said, Conrad, you know what we could try? Boy, let us use a bass guitar. I say, what? I say, look, it's not a full steel, it's a steel band with a bass guitar. We got Barney Bonaparte, he was one of the leading bass players here. He traveled with us wherever we went. So you have the bass guitar there, put it in his sack. Nobody lift up to 6 bass bands. And they used to take up space. You know, part of the problem with the steel band and fets, when the dance hall was with, was the amount of space they took up. And I kept telling the bands, go with the smaller side. But and the promoters got upset and stopped hiring it. So marketability, well, you're a banker, you know what I'm talking about, man. You have to figure ways out. We made us figure in Panorama alone. You're going nowhere.
Right, yes, that's true.
You can't only, it's important, you know, but you put all the resources into Panorama. So you're thin now. You use up most of your resource financial base. There are little bands who try, you know, there's a band called from Tunapuna. I saw them on the road, they have some amplification. They sound good.
Yeah.
But they're one. Everybody should be trying to do that to make yourself more marketable. If you're really interested in being a part of the music world. You have to do that. Look at any show, you see. You develop the funny going. So I mean,
We have some work to do.
plenty work. They need mind. You know, Trinidad needs thinkers. It needs people to think. Thinkers. Put your mind to think. Stop listening to all the nonsense around and freaking engaging and so think. You know what I like about Merchant? And when Freddy Veens, all their conversations were of a certain level. All.